Hey everyone, this is going to be a tutorial to show you how to use Job Application Assistant. I'm going to start with the README. I'm going to go through setting up the environment. I'll continue on with how to set up your environment variable. You'll need one, which is the OpenAI key that you have for OpenAI and making requests via their API to use ChatGPT. I'll talk about the configuration file that needs to be updated. These are all the settings to run Job Application Assistant. I'll then run the scripts and go through the output and how I use them, use the CSV outputs. Before we get started, you'll need to have Firefox downloaded. You'll also need to have your Conda system set up. Anaconda is the company that makes Mini Conda, which I have set up locally. You'll need to go to their website and set up the environment. So first, I'm going to show you the README, which has basically everything you need to run the scripts, and I'm more or less going to be following what's going on here. So starting with this command, we're going to first create the environment, which you can copy, and this will be the name of the environment. It has all the packages you need. There's also a requirements file, but I've needed to create the environment using Conda because there's an issue with Gecko driver and pip. Here I explain some extra steps that you need to go through if you're using pip, but if you're using Conda, it's a little bit simpler. This describes the config file that needs to be updated. This describes two environment variables to set up. I'm just going to be using the default for this one. This is the OpenAI key I described. You'll need to go to OpenAI, enter a credit card, and get that key in order to use this. And then it talks about how to actually run the scripts. There's some points throughout the program that takes in user input if something goes wrong. This gives information on those types of interruptions in the program, a little bit of information about ChatGPT, and these are the release notes with main version 4 being the most recent. So I have already run this command. I have the environment set up. So I can activate it. So I can now set up the environment variable. I'm using a Mac, so it was as simple as running this command. This is my username and where the bash profile is saved. This is your file that environment variables are read from. I'm using a bash shell environment, so that's the corresponding environment variable file that I needed to update. So you can use Vim to update that, and then once you have that open, you'll need to then type in, something along those lines. This will persist the environment variable throughout all the times you open up a new terminal. If you want to, in the lifetime of this one terminal open, just run this command with the key that you have, you can also do that. But after you close this terminal, that key won't be there anymore. So it's easier just to find the environment file that you need to update, which I've used ChatGPT to identify exactly which different type of environment files there are. I've used ZSHRC as well, but these might be your environment file if you are using a Unix or I believe Linux system. Otherwise, if you're using Windows, there's a different process to set up your environment file variables that you'll have to research online to figure out. First, we're going to download the repository locally. So I am in a location on my laptop where I am happy to download this repository. I clicked clone with SSH, and it's as simple as git clone and then paste in the command. You may have to set up your SSH key if you want to download. From the repository, I'm not sure. You may have it set up such that you don't need to require an SSH key, in which case it may just be git clone run this, but as you can see, I had to enter in my passcode to actually download that. So now I have this locally, job application assistant. We have all the files downloaded. I'm going to now edit the config file, which is this guy right here. So using Vim, which is a text editor, I can open this up and enter, modify, or do whatever with this file. So these are the job titles to search Indeed for. This is the location. This also can be a list if you want. Last 3 days, this has to match exactly the text inside the dropdown on Indeed's website. So it can be last 24 hours, last 3 days, 7 days, and 14 days. Likewise, this has to match the text exactly. The minimum years that you are searching for that are required in the job, the maximum years, all these titles that I personally did not want to see in the title. So if any one of these text occur in the title, it would skip that job. Required keywords in the job description, I wanted to see it either have Python or Python, uppercase, lowercase. These are specific to just using the scripts in general. So this is all you need. From here above is all you need for specifying the search settings to find jobs and to filter on it. Use ChatGPT. There's different options to determine if you're qualified for a position, and you do have the option to not get a key, set all that up, and just have it use basically not that feature, everything surrounding that, but not ChatGPT. It's a flag to use it or not. Identify software tools. It makes a request to ChatGPT to basically look through the job description and summarize all the software tools that are needed for that job. Basically the idea is you have this huge job description with a bunch of like fluff words and whatnot, but if you only knew the exact tools that are used and you knew the tools you had, it's a much quicker decision on whether that job's good for you or not. Removed expired job posts after a certain time. Jobs do expire, so this will it'll loop through all the saved jobs that you have in your saved CSV, save job CSV, and identify any that have expired on Indeed.com and remove those from your saved jobs. So it's like a time-saving tool right there. Okay, so in this utilities file, which is in the source folder, and you're going to find the job search params, which lists every single acceptable parameter. So again, we've added, this is the third one, fourth one. You can also add, it'll default to false, but if you want to search just remote positions, you can do that. We've added this, we've added that. If you want to start the search page from a particular page, you can do that there too. So in the run settings, we have the save jobs path. So save jobs, once you found a job that the filters, let filter through, then it is a job you're likely qualified for. It's going to your saved jobs path. The process jobs is every single job, whether it's saved or not, whether it didn't pass the filters, it's still getting into process jobs. So if a new job appears, it'll first check in the process jobs to see if it's already been processed or not. And then so you don't continue on with the logic of the scripts, thus saving time. We have removed expired jobs posts. I've described that. Resume path. You can specify a text file of your resume and it can be used in the scripts. Basically, the idea that I really haven't tested out thoroughly is that if you add your resume, you can basically just be like, ChatGPT, here's a job description I'm thinking about applying for. Here's my resume. Can you tell me by looking at my resume, am I qualified for it? You can look in the code to see if you want to try to explore it, but that's not something that I really wanted to spend time digging into to see if it didn't seem promising at first, and so it's going to take a lot more work. So I just kind of stopped it. Existing methods to kind of figure out if you're qualified through the various filters have worked for me in my job search. Identify software tools, I went over that. So that looks like everything. We have our completed settings files for running the script. So I'm happy with this. I'm going to exit it out of the Vim editor and save it. I should be in a position now to run the scripts. So going back to the README, I can just simply run the script like this. I think I will need to get into the source file, but yeah, once I do that, it should be as simple as this. So it's starting up the Firefox driver. And the settings that were in the config file, the job search config, they're going to be pulled, and this whole process is going to be operated using those settings. So it's entering the last 3 days. It's going to put in 35 miles next. And there's sleep timers to just kind of give it time to load, but also to sometimes fool the CAPTCHA checkpoints. So I think my system might be a little bit overloaded with me recording and doing other stuff, but and thus I'll hit more checkpoints. But this is an example of a checkpoint. So this system didn't successfully click on the last filter item. So I have this helpful text to tell me what to do. So I can either basically in this position, I would need to adjust the settings and then press enter. So once I'm done, I can also skip to the next job search, but I don't want to do that. So I just adjusted the mileage, then I can press enter. Now it's going to continue on through the scripts, and it's going to go through each job, understand if it's worth applying to, i.e. it passed all the filters. In this case, it did pass the filters. It made a couple requests to ChatGPT and it got saved. This one, I added the explanation as title check failed. So it had senior in it, which I didn't want senior positions. Another one that saved, this one didn't have the keywords Python or Python and software development engineer in the job description. That was a reason for me to skip it. Again, title check fill. This one got saved. So honestly, if you want to understand the logic and how these scripts work, if you don't find it in the README, then I suggest you go to the docstring, which is this component right here in green, to describe what's going on in the scripts. Likewise, in process job, you're going to have this analyze job function on 166. It's going to tell you the filters that the job is analyzed on. So this gives more information on exactly how the scripts work. I really just want to make this a tutorial of like how to use it, not exactly how the functionality behind it is working. So I'm going to let this finish and then we'll go over the output. Right, so we've gotten to a point and navigated to the 4th page, and then it got to some issue with the scripts working with Indeed, such that as it's looping through each card, it got to this one, it went on to the next card, and then it loads the actual link of the job post. So there's some options. This trigger can occur for any one of these options, and in this point, you should probably type retry. So single job appears on your page, type retry. It's going to retry the job search from the page that it was on, the 4th page. In my case, I didn't really want to search for 3 days, or I shouldn't have. It's too long, so I'm actually going to type in exit. And the formatting's not great right there with it being at the end, but I want to just save the CSVs. So it's going to exit everything, and it saved the the files. So now we have this save jobs, CSV, and process jobs. The formatting is going to be a little bit weird depending on which editor you use, but adjusting the row height, we can see that while the scripts ran, we had 5 jobs saved. It's going to have the date it was saved, the status, so you might be able to write applied, rejected. I also used in consideration or whatever, applied on date, so you can track that, whatever date. The company, the title, and the link for the job post. So this was the job that was saved. So in my case, I had the word Python. It had the years of experience, 4+ years. It had the correct title, or better put, it didn't have the undesirable terms in the title. And that's about it. It's like those 3 things that are the filters. That's good enough for me to filter out, out of a huge number of jobs, only a handful that I can look into further and, spend more time thinking about. But even then, as long as, I got these scripts and the process working good enough such that, of the jobs saved, I could probably apply to most of them. And if I wasn't going to apply to them, it was a quick judgment of, I'm not qualified for that. So, out of most of the jobs saved, I was able to apply to most of them. So going back to here, continuing on with the columns, the entire these are the job responsibilities given the job description to ChatGPT and asking it to summarize the top 3 responsibilities. These are the 3 that it came up with. Again, another metric of how qualified you might be for the position. The languages that are in the job description. Again, you'll recall that one flag that was in the job settings. This was analyze the language flag, and that was set to true, so it did that. The entire job description, which, because this is, yeah, it's capped right there, but this is the entire job description. So that's why this formatting is kind of funky, because, you know, each one of those cells might be super long, and any notes that you want to add. So in the process job CSV, these are, in the process jobs, it's every single job that the script ran through. These are just the ones that you should look into further. And here we have the date saved, the company title, and URL, and the reason why it was skipped. Right. So this one's pretty self-explanatory. That is pretty much it. So yeah, in summary, we went over how to set up an environment, how to modify the configuration file, and different options you have to using that. Talked and showed how the driver was navigating through Indeed and processing the job information, which were then saved to the CSVs that I have open right now. The main filters on whether a job you're qualified for, get past the filters. It's the title check, so making sure there's not like senior or manager in the title, undesirable terms there. The logic of the scripts could be flipped around such that you have mandatory title terms that could be changed in the scripts. That's not how it's set up now. It's undesirable terms. So that's the first filter. Second filter is making sure that there are required terms in the job description, such as Python. And the third filter is a reject search to search for references of years in the job description. It then pulls the number closest to that word years, and then parses out that information to figure out if the ranges that you provide for min and max years you're qualified for match. Those are the 3 big filters for seeing if jobs you're qualified for exist. Again, the scripts are, the infrastructure is there to use ChatGPT, to use it to see what it thinks and how qualified it thinks you are for the position given a resume. I briefly went over that, but the scripts that I use settings the most for not using ChatGPT. Instead, just rely on that reject search and the title and the job description requirements there. So that's pretty much it. Hopefully, you find these useful. Message me if you do end up using them. I'd love to have your feedback. I appreciate you watching this video.